Hello, hello. Welcome back, everyone. This is David Patrick Harry with Church of the Eternal Logos. And today I want to talk to you about why you are chosen and how your chosenness relates to God's providence, relates to synchronistic events unfolding in one's life that you may be conscientious of, I'm sure, and how this all might relate then to how we perceive and engage with the year 2021. So we have a lot to cover in today's stream. It should be a really fun stream. Hope everybody saw Orthodoxy First over with Luke, and everybody is doing good. We are going to be talking, like I said, about a variety of different stuff. Before I get going, I do want to say, Matthew Curry, thank you so much for the $5, brother. I appreciate you throwing that in. God bless you and yours, and Happy New Year's to you and your family. Thank you very much for the $5. I appreciate that. So today, I want to, again, talk about the chosenness. There's really a sort of four main topics that got me going in regards to thinking about today's stream. So due to some of my interactions with some of the Orthodox guys online, I was sensing a bit of rhetoric that I would encapsulate as the sort of self-pity, sort of the pity me mentality, given the ongoings of events within our society, within our world, within our fallen world, right? And that led me to think about, as Orthodox, as Christians generally speaking, but definitely within the tradition of Eastern Orthodoxy, we are chosen. We have a personal relationship with God. And I want to speak to how this chosenness leads us out of nihilism, which is one of the main problems of our society. And so the nihilism within our society, us engaging with this society, leads so many converts to rediscover Christianity, men and women. And one of the ways in which they rediscover Christianity is through the way in which God communicates to many of us, which is through synchronistic events, synchronistic unfoldings. But we're going to desecularize this Jungian concept of synchronicity and really unpack it within the theological context of providence and God's will over all causation. And so we're going to look at how synchronicity is what Jung considered a sort of parallel of coincidental, meaningful events. So it has to do with the perception of meaning. And so my own journey, I know so many I've talked to, there's this weird journey to orthodoxy that you can't articulate to another person. It's wrapped up with more logical arguments, which we try to do with apologetics, but it's also tied up with experience of the world, falling away from Christ, falling away from tradition, getting involved in nefarious things. And those experiences then, if we're actually pursuing truth and we're not addicted in a very serious degree to some sort of creation, that those synchronistic events lead us out of what we were doing and somehow back to Christ, and then somehow back to orthodoxy. And then when you look back, maybe there was a 1 to 2 year process of all these different things. It's like, wow, crazy. It's crazy. And so you can't then explain why you're Orthodox, why you're Christian in 2020, right? It seems that's what people did when they didn't understand the Big Bang, right? That was before the internet, bro. And so I want to talk then about how God is communicating to so many of us through synchronistic events, re-understanding that within the concept of providence, and then connecting those synchronistic events back to the theology that you yourself are chosen. And if you yourself are chosen, we see the evils in the world. We see what's at hand. We know that the globalist agenda, they're making their move right now. Who is going to be the resistance? Who is going to stand up in opposition to the movements that we see in society? And it is us. It is us. Again, we are chosen. So we're going to then get into the theological term, chosenness. Chosenness. This relates to the Jewish concept that they are the chosen people. But obviously within a Orthodox theological context, we have a little bit different understanding in regards to who the true Israel is. So I want to talk about chosenness and then how this leads to 2021. This is an important year. This isn't 1998, this isn't 2006 or something where it was just kind of another year. I want to then bring to the fore the seriousness of the situation that we're facing on a global scale, and again, why you are chosen. You, and to use almost like a Art Bell framework, you are chosen for this transmission. The fact that you even watch my videos, watch this this type of content, have already gone down a rabbit hole enough that you've already been red pilled, then white pilled, then whatever pilled, that there is such a journey here that to even be here listening to many of my streams, you already have been self-selected, and that's tied to a synchronistic journey that God has led you on, that he himself chose you. And so that then is really what we're going to be getting into in today's video. So we're going to be talking about, I want to tie things together. So we're going to get to a section that I titled Tying Things Together, highlighting how many ideas I've discussed throughout multiple streams relate back to the topic today. So materialism, progressivism, and the lack of meaning. This is going to relate back to the nihilism that is rampant within our society. Read Father Sarah from Rose. Then we're going to get into men and women rediscovering Christianity. We're going to get into God's providence and synchronistic signs, sort of desecularizing and taking this concept out of the New Age and putting it into an Orthodox understanding. And then we're going to be looking at God was guiding you the entire time, and understanding this sort of very personal relationship that your journey that only you fully know, which is so difficult then to articulate to other people, that journey is also fully known by God, and that you have been led the entire time. This has been an entirely personal experience, and that is why then I titled it Chosen. And that, what does it mean to be chosen? Right? I know that you guys probably have seen the popular new Christian series, The Chosen, right? I do recommend checking it out. And maybe we'll do some live watches or episode breakdowns and stuff, maybe on the channel. That'd be a good idea eventually. But the reason why I tied it "You Are Chosen" is because, almost carrying in the same pattern of the show, The Chosen, where the show is about how Christ chose the 12 apostles and really highlighting the apostolic journeys of those various individuals to Christ, as opposed to from the perspective of Christ. So that's that whole TV series. But being chosen, you are chosen, implies absolutely a personhood, right? There's a you there. And so being chosen is extremely personal. Whether you're being chosen for a basketball team when you're a kid and you got picked last, that is extremely personal. That's why you took it so hard when you were picked last. To be chosen is an extremely personal transaction between individuals, or between persons, rather. We should keep it theological. And so God has chosen you. And this highlights at the very intimate and personal relationship that we have with God. Again, tied back to our order theologiae, our order of theology. We always begin with personhood. So to be chosen is extremely personal. But what does that also insinuate is that to be chosen means that you are a single amongst a multiplicity. And that is also true. And one of the things that I want to highlight, and I'll reiterate this multiple times throughout tonight's stream, is that you exist right here, right now. The fact that you're alive through the year of 2020, wherever you are at in your journey, whether you're 38 years old and you have a full family and you've come to the realization now you're trying to act in accordance with that. Maybe you're 19 years old, 20 years old, and you're conscientious about the state of the world and you're trying to figure out how you're going to plan your future. Who knows where you are, and engaging with today's mess, but you are chosen amongst a multitude of people to exist right here, right now. You didn't exist in the life of Christ. You didn't exist before Christ. You didn't exist in 1,000 years. You existed right now, because whatever your providential journey is, whatever God's purpose is for you, can only be fulfilled in the present moment. So the chaos we see around us is really the calling for each one of us to figure out what we are called to do. We are here for a purpose. So being chosen is extremely personal between you and the person who chose you. It also insinuates that you are a single within a multiplicity. It also highlights that when you to be chosen, somebody is recognizing the potential innate within yourself. If I am a little kid and we're divvying up, we have two captains, we're divvying up the kickball team, the basketball team. I choose Johnny because I know Johnny has the potential. He's probably the best player on the playground, so he's definitely the number one pick because based on his potential. God does the same thing for us. So to be chosen to exist in the contemporary period, in 2020, the ending of 2020, moving into 2021, knowing what is at hand with the globalist agenda, how they're making their move right now, things that have been theorized and speculated for years and years of years are now actually in action in the world. The majority of the world doesn't see it. It kind of startles you if you are seeing it. So, that only reestablishes the fact that if you are seeing what's really going on, the larger agenda behind all this stuff, again, you are chosen. You are chosen to see that. You are chosen then to react and respond in accordance with what it is that God is allowing to be revealed to you through your senses, through your news, through your understanding, through your intellect, through whatever, however you want to frame that. It's still a sort of chosenness on yourself in regards to your relationship to God. So potential is recognized. Also, to be chosen for something means there's a purpose, right? And that's going to relate to the potential because the potential is only relation to what the activity that's going to be called for. So again, you have a purpose. If you don't know what your purpose, many of us may already be on our purpose tonight. 2020, maybe we've been doing it for the last 10 years. Maybe we haven't discovered it yet, but we have to submit ourselves to God and for us to fully grasp whatever that purpose is in relationship to his will. And so the last part about being chosen is that it also should highlight that you aren't alone. That if you are being chosen to be here right now in 2020, and you are able to see what is going on, you're aware of the globalism, you're aware of the communistic creepings underneath that, how they were reframing really Marxism and using it in a new way. If you understand how the propaganda, the election, the manipulation, everything, the global economics, you aren't alone as well. So even though there's this very personal dimension to what we're talking about of you specifically being chosen, also in relation to that, there's so many of us that are also being chosen. And we're finding ourselves right now, and that's what's so interesting about all these people rediscovering Christianity, that a lot of it is realizing that you aren't alone in this weird journey so many of us gone on spiritually. So that's what I wanted to say about the overview. And I didn't even mention that I also have a few things that I want to read to you guys before we get in deeper into today's conversation. I feel like that first, 13 minutes, that helped give a framework for what we're going to be talking about today. But I also have some interesting readings. I have a Psalm 36 in the Orthodox Study Bible, 37 if you're in a Protestant Bible. And this is a psalm that I think is worth reading in relationship to today's topic. And then I also, our family had recently come across some poems that my grandmother, my father's mother, she was a prolific writer of poems. She was a poet, published. She was a second grade school teacher. She had a master's degree. She was the president of the Teachers Union in the state of Indiana. So she was a learned woman, and she was a devout Methodist Christian, and she has these poems, and there's a few that actually relate to today's topic that I wanted to read. And so I wanted to read a few of my grandmother's poems. Once we do the psalm reading and my grandmother's reading, we will then get into the points that I've laid out for today's video. So that is the structure at hand. Ashley Hopkins says, anyone recommend an Orthodox Study Bible? Yeah. The Orthodox Study Bible. If you just go to Amazon or maybe a local church that might be selling it, just put in Orthodox Study Bible and you'll see it pop up. If you can, please smash that like. If you guys have just joined, please smash that like. So, first thing I want to do is read Psalm 36 in the Orthodox Study Bible, Psalm 37 in most Bibles. And the reason why I chose this, when I was looking for a chapter, I was looking for something that would kind of encapsulate what I'm trying to get at today in a variety of ways. The chosenness of God, God's providence over your life, the fact that we're up against real evil, that we are in the midst of a cosmic spiritual war, a battle. This isn't a game, like this is for all the marbles. This actually means something. So I found Psalm 36, Psalm 37 in most Bibles, and I thought, geez, this pretty much hits at a lot of the topics that I'm trying to get at today. So that's what I want to read to you guys. Thank you, Robin, for sharing that link for Ashley Hopkins regarding the Orthodox Study Bible. So anyways, I will be reading out of the Orthodox Study Bible, and well, let's just get into it. I'll be getting, again, Psalm 36 in the Orthodox Study Bible, Psalm 37 in most Bibles. Protestant Bible, I don't know if you're in a King James, whatever you are. It's probably Psalm 37, and the Orthodox, it's Psalm 36. And it reads, "Do not be envious of those who do evil, nor be jealous of those who work lawlessness. For like grass they shall be dried up quickly, and like green vegetables they shall swiftly wither. Hope in the Lord, and work goodness. Dwell in the land, and you shall be nurtured by its riches. Delight in the Lord, and he will give you the request of your heart. Reveal your way to the Lord, and hope in him, and he will do it. He shall bring forth your righteousness as light, and your judgment as the noonday sun. Submit to the Lord, and supplicate him. Do not be envious of him who prospers in his way, nor of him who transgresses the law. Cease from wrath and forsake anger. Do not be envious so as to do evil, because evildoers will be destroyed. But those who wait on the Lord, these shall inherit the earth. For in a little while the sinner shall no longer be present, and you will look for his place, but not find it. But the gentle shall inherit the earth, and they will delight in the fullness of peace. The sinner will closely observe the just man, and gnash at him with his teeth, but the Lord shall laugh at him, because he foresees his day will come. The sinners draw the sword and stretch their bow to cast down the poor and needy, to slay the upright in heart. May the sword enter their heart, and may their bows be shattered. Better the little with the just man than the great riches of sinners. For the arms of sinners shall be shattered, and the Lord supports the righteous. The Lord knows the ways of the blameless, and their inheritance shall be forever. They shall not be ashamed in an evil time, and in days of famine they shall be filled. But the sinners shall perish, and the enemies of the Lord altogether. When they glorify and exalt themselves, like smoke they shall vanish away. The sinner borrows, but will not repay. However, the righteous man is compassionate and gives. For those who bless him shall inherit the earth, but those who curse him shall be utterly destroyed. The steps of a man are guided aright by the Lord, and he shall desire his way. When he falls, he shall not be broken to pieces, for the Lord supports him with his hand. I was young, but indeed I grew old, yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. Day in and out he is merciful and lends, and his seed shall be a blessing. Turn away from evil, and do good, and dwell unto ages of ages. For the Lord loves judgment, and he will not abandon his holy ones. They shall be kept forever, but the lawless shall be banished, and the seed of the ungodly shall be utterly destroyed. The righteous shall inherit the earth, and dwell upon it upon ages and ages. The mouth of the righteous shall meditate on wisdom, and his tongue shall speak of judgment. The law of God is in his heart, and his steps shall not be tripped up. The sinner observes the righteous man, and seeks to put him to death. But the Lord will not leave him in his hands, nor condemn him when he judges him. Wait on the Lord, and keep his way, and he will exalt you to inherit the earth. You shall see the sinners when they are utterly destroyed. I saw the ungodly greatly exalted, and lifting himself up to the cedars of Lebanon. And I passed by, and behold, he was not. And I sought for him, but his place was not found. Keep innocence, and behold uprightness. For this is the remnant of the peaceful man. But transgressors shall be utterly destroyed together. The remnants of the ungodly shall be utterly destroyed. Now the salvation of the righteous is from the Lord, and he is their protector in time of affliction. And the Lord shall help them and deliver them, and he shall deliver them from sinners, and save them, because they hope in him. And that was Psalm 36 in the Orthodox Study Bible, Psalm 37 in most Bibles. But I love that psalm. I thought it hit on everything I wanted to get at today. I hope you guys also enjoyed that. Yes, please smash that like. I loved this psalm. Now, even though the footnote doesn't really have a whole lot to do with today's video topic, I will read it to you. The footnote for the psalm that we just read is that Psalm 36 shows why the martyrs were willing to die. Well, actually, it kind of does go with with today's topic. Psalm 36 shows why the martyrs were willing to die. They were, quote, looking for the resurrection of the dead and the life of the world to come. The world to come is the theme throughout this psalm. Prior to their martyrdom, the martyrs lived a godly life in light of the new world. Therefore, they are the best examples to encourage God's people to live the Christian life in the same anticipation of the world to come. But the ungodly shall not inherit the world. So it totally goes with today's topic, because some of us will be called to be martyrs. With what's coming in the future, who knows how violent things will get. Obviously, we see the balkanization of this great nation. Great, depending on how you want to understand that, obviously. We see the pitfalls of secularism and many of the Enlightenment presuppositions rooted within the American experiment. But obviously, this country is made up of great people and God-fearing people, whether they're Orthodox or not. So may God have mercy on us. Us as a people have transgressed God's law so much, especially as a society, that his judgment, what's coming in the next few years, I mean, we probably deserve it. We obviously deserve it. So we choosing to be righteous, though fallen as we are, I'm the biggest sinner as anybody else. So, but there is a degree of chosenness, guys. I mean, the majority, just look at the mass stuff. I just had another weird interaction at Best Buy with this mask stuff. It was crazy. They wouldn't even serve me because I didn't have the mask on entirely, it wouldn't even create an appointment. That's a wild story. That'll be neither here nor there. But guys, there is certainly a chosenness about all this, about who has already done the work to put the puzzle pieces together to perceive the real agenda, right? That we all already know is here. Hey, Ken, what's going on, brother? Ken Ami is in the house. What's going on, Ken? So I also have a few poems from my grandmother that I'd like to share with you guys today. The first one is called let's see. Hold on. Let me make sure. Here's the first one. The first one of my grandmother's poems I wanted to read to you guys. Again, she was a Methodist Christian. Is called "To Further Thy Kingdom." to further thy kingdom. And again, this is tied to really the providential, the synchronistic events that have occurred in many of our lives that led us to the point of rediscovering Christianity, eventually adopting orthodoxy or moving much closer to orthodoxy. This is all God's attempt to move us towards our own providential purpose to better establish the kingdom, to further the kingdom that comes. And so here is thy poem. To further thy kingdom. I came to church and sat in the pew to listen and pray as I usually do. But within me I heard a soft voice say, what are you doing for others each day? The air I breathe, good health I've enjoyed, my home, my friends, where I'm employed. I work, I play, I eat, I sleep. I've forgotten, God said, feed my sheep. Do you love me? God asked. You know, Lord, that I do. But what have I done to show it to you? Each day I accept thy gifts given free. Yes, all that I have, you've given it to me. How utterly ungrateful to let a day end if I do not share his love with some friend. The sermon ended and the service was over, and I prayed, Lord, forgive me, I want to do more. To further thy kingdom, let that be thy aim. I pray, dear Lord Jesus, in thy holy name. And so I just thought that was a nice little poem in regards to what we are doing in regards to trying to further the kingdom. And then the other poem that I wanted to read was God Makes No Mistake. God makes no mistake. God makes no mistake in his plan for our life. Though through weakness we doubt in times of strife, how often we wonder, does God really care? Does he carry our burdens, our sorrows share? When sadness brings changes and we think we can't go on, he patiently waits till our doubting is gone. His love never lessens, though our faith may shake. Through his infinite wisdom, God makes no mistake. And isn't that true? Isn't that true? That God doesn't make a mistake. And that leads us then to today's stream, that your journey to Christ, your journey to orthodoxy, your purpose right now, your existence in the world, the fact that you lived through 2020, this is no mistake. You have a purpose, and you know the synchronistic journey that's led you to potentially watching this live stream right now, that there is a pattern, that there is something happening in society. I mean, look at the Groyper, look the Groyper movement. I saw a recent study that the researchers were astonished to find that during the lockdown, the COVID lockdown, that Gen Zers were at a much higher likelihood to want and actually do attend church services. And so we see there's something going on. The Spirit is working. People are coming back to the church. That is not an accident. That is God's providence. We, again, are chosen. And so I want to begin to tie things together that I've talked about so many different times into other streams, and how it relates to your chosenness, how it relates to the present context, how it relates to all of us moving into 2021. And so the first, I want to talk about materialism, progressivism, and the lack of meaning, because this is getting at the sort of decrepit state of our society. There's a lack of meaning. There's a lack of meaning for a multitude of reasons, but because of that lack of meaning, meaning has been repositioned really to occupy a space within hedonism. That if you want to find more meaning in the world, and this is even within the New Age, you hear them talk about how life has no meaning. I saw this recently on Instagram, that a spiritual, but not religious, New Agey account was putting out the idea, and this was beautiful for people. This was beautiful, that life has no meaning. There is no ultimate objective meaning, that you create your meaning. You create your meaning. And that is meaninglessness. Creating your own meaning, not that we can't create our lives, not that we can't create scenarios that provide meaning for us. Of course we can. But it leads to a deeper epistemic problem of relativism. As we've talked about over and over and over again, I'm not highlighting any new ideas here, that relativism is really the crux of all this stuff when it comes to the epistemic war, right? We've talked about the balkanization of epistemology in previous streams. And because of that balkanization of epistemology, how do we know, which system of knowledge do we know to be ultimately true? And what that has demonstrated is that even within Orthodoxy, many Christians, that the fear of COVID-19, again, because 2020 at a semiotic level is about clarity, right? 2020 vision. So all of 2020 has been a point in which clarity has been given to us in a multitude of ways. What's powerful, or what's important in our lives. It's given us clarity onto who's on the right side and the bad side. You look at the rhinos, the Democrats, the globalists, Trump support. It's just, it continues to provide more and more and more clarity for us. That 2020, what we see then is that the root of this whole war is relativism. That the transitioning of genders, that man can dictate male and female, that you have your own truth, that you create the meaning of your life, that hedonism fulfills people's yearnings for deeper truth, and then that hedonism actually then brings them to points of drug addiction or drug exploration as a search for meaning itself, rooting meaning back in phenomenology, meaning the valorization of your own experience is ultimately true, that this leads to meaninglessness. And that progressivism then, and generally speaking, as a worldview, as a political system, is also related to the meaninglessness, because it is such a product of a sort of theological presupposition of man becoming God. That's what progressivism is that man is progressing society forward through his own means and endeavors within a secular context based on where these ideas actually originated within the history of ideas, right? This is all post-Enlightenment stuff. So progressivism, as we've talked about in previous videos, is really a progressive journey away from traditional presuppositions of God himself. And that's why they are in favor of socialism. That's why they're in favor of all these ideas that, there are no boundaries. There are no national boundaries. There are no boundaries between genders. There's no boundaries between truth. There's no boundaries between religious traditions. Everything blends onto each other. That's going to be a problem, especially as a society. And all of this contributes to a lack of meaning, an absolute lack of meaning within our society. And no wonder then we have increased suicide rates, increased drug addiction. And it's tied to an absolute absence of real tradition. What tradition do we have? What does the average American have for tradition, at least within the European context? Though I give you Western Europe isn't much better at all, but at least within the Eastern European context, they may be poor, they may have different hardships, they may face realities that are just as difficult as us, but at least their countries, their people, their nations have a tradition. They may be moving in opposition to that tradition, but the American tradition itself is almost a lack of tradition, given its sort of emphasis on individualism and its opposition to authority. Rightly so, right? Within the instance of King George and what was going on then, just like the Protestants had a right to be angry with Catholicism, but we can still also recognize the errors of Protestantism and the errors of Catholicism. So tradition has been killed. Tradition. Marco Ramos wrote R.I.P. tradition. Yeah, no joke. And so relativism is, from a theological perspective, if we are Christians, relativism is the ultimate trick. This is the ultimate trick of the devil. Why? Because good and evil now exist on the same playing field. There is no differentiation, no demarcation, no distinction between the two. Therefore, there is no distinction between God and anti-God. It's all blending together because we've talked about this sort of ambiguity, the blending of boundaries, the lack of distinction, and we see the same thing. And it's all, that's why at an epistemic level, it all goes back to relativism. Relativism is the great evil. Relativism is the mechanism in which Satan inverts the way things should be, correct order. So this has led then, we live in that society. All of us have grown up in that society. All of us have been products of propaganda from that society. And yet we have a phenomenon of young men and women rediscovering Christianity. I know that was the case for me. I know that was the case for some of you guys. I know that's the case for many of the Christians I've met in my life. Shout out to Abby, a friend of mine who now goes to my church. Same exact thing. The journeys back to Christianity are so incredibly personal that you can't explain all the ways in which God has communicated to you on your journey back to Christ. You can't, right? You have, say you're a New Ager, say you're spiritual but not religious, maybe you were fairly sophisticated in the Eastern traditions, you had a framework of all these, a friend network of all these people who had similar ideas. They were New Agey, they were spiritual but not religious, this or that. And all of a sudden you start moving towards Christ. You start talking about Christianity. They can't understand it. Yet you yourself, it's so obvious. And this is what I keep getting at people that have gone on this journey. It's like, it's so weird because so many of us never thought we were going to rediscover Christianity or come back to the tradition. Yet we do. And we do because there's this overwhelming sense that we can't ignore what is true, and that God puts us in scenarios that we ourselves have chose, right? So there's a give and take here between your own free will and God's providence that's playing out. And you have all these synchronistic experiences, the people you meet, the things you do, the time that it happened, symbols, whatever, all this stuff starts happening in your life. And that synchronistic journey led so many of us back to Christ. That is an extremely personal, but a large phenomenon that's happening at a grand scale. So again, it's a personal phenomenon. Only the individual and God knows this incredible, elaborate journey that brought them back to Christ. But at the same time, clearly this phenomenon is happening to a lot of people. And this highlights that God is, there's a happening right now in our society. People are choosing God and God is choosing people. This is a big deal. This is a huge deal. And again, it highlights why you are chosen, whether you watch this stream, whether you're an Orthodox Christian or you're becoming more open to Christianity itself. You are chosen. There is something that is happening here. Clearly, it's by the work of God. And this is allowing people that synchronistic journey, doing the drugs, having the sex, doing all the things you're not supposed to do, puts, again, through God's providence, puts a person in a place where they can now actually perceive the meaning, the beauty, and the depth of Christianity. And then you can't explain that to somebody. Right? You have this lived journey that brings you back to Christ. Then maybe you get more sophisticated with the theology, with ideas, with philosophy, all this stuff. And you see the depth within Catholicism, Orthodoxy, I would say Orthodoxy more specifically, but then the actual beauty itself, the icons, the architecture, I would say the theology. Just there's so much actual beauty then to it as well. And then in the wisdom, then you start reading Scripture. Then you start learning more about Scripture. And then based on all these things that you've already done, now you read Scripture, something that you were totally rejecting previously, and it all makes sense. It connects all the dots. And that is what is so interesting, right? That so many of us have been brought back by God to Christianity to be the framework that connects the dots for us. It's like we have, all of us, sort of society in itself. It's like those artworks you get as a kid where you have to draw the line from dot one to dot two to dot three, and then you see the whole picture afterwards. It's like that is what Christianity is for so many of us that have like gone through this whirlwind of contemporary American society, right? Really the post 1960s America, that you're bombarded with all this stuff. You go down all those avenues, you still end up empty. You find Christ, and then Christianity becomes this amazing rubric to then relook at the world. And now everything begins to fall in place, even during COVID, right? Christianity, I know for many of you, some of you may have converted during all this COVID stuff, but it has provided a useful rubric for understanding the world because, one, it's true, two, it's timeless. So wanted to say that, but that reconnection that so many men and women are going on, it has another effect. So it's not just a learning from your experience, which all of us, many of us did. It's not just the recognition of the depth, the meaning, the beauty, and the truth of Christianity, which is also part of it, but also it reconnects us with our ancestors. It reconnects us with the patriarchy itself, with the patriarchal tradition, with a masculine tradition, right? These central characteristics that are absent within our society right now, that we can be reconnected with our ancestors. That when you sever that connection, when all these Western people have severed their absolute traditional connection to their ancestors, you think that makes your life more meaningful or less meaningful, right? Again, we've already highlighted within this first section here that the materialism, the progressivism, that it all leads to ultimately a lack of meaning, though it perceives itself to be pursuing ultimate meaning or more purposeful meaning. Name it social justice, climate change, whatever you want to call it. But what is more meaningful? Being in communion with your ancestors, or being a hip new contemporary person that's secular, that believes all religions lead to the same place, and they have to destroy the patriarchy and systemic racism? It's crazy. It's crazy. So that's another benefit, is that we were reconnected with our ancestors. But God's providence and synchronistic signs. It's funny how God communicates to us in such a multiplicity of ways. Some people have heard voices. I have had experiences where it seems like inside your head you're being communicated to, whether it's like images or thoughts or something are expressed to you, sometimes at like a third person level. But have I heard auditory words from God in my ears? No, I've never had that experience. Do some people? Yes, they do. God communicates to us through other people. Sometimes, again, through his providence, through what we would call in a Jungian context, synchronicity. Sometimes the right person comes at the right time to say the right words just to us. So God speaks to us through other people. Sometimes God speaks to us through our hardships. And sometimes God speaks to us through a pattern of meaningful events, through synchronicities. And that's what I want to highlight, is then in this third part is sort of de-secularizing, demystifying, de-new aging the idea of synchronicity. Now, we as Christians shouldn't be using... I'm only using the term synchronicity to highlight a concept that most people identify over here with a concept that in Christian theology we call providence over here. In my worldview, in every Christian worldview, these should be seen as the same thing. So whenever we hear New Agers or people talking about synchronicities, we should see that as really a bridge to get them coming into our worldview, because their worldview, it's difficult for them to account for all these synchronicities, right? They talk about the universe speaking to them, this or that. But obviously, if the universe is speaking to you, well, then how did the universe create itself? Oh, crap. Now worldview begins to fall apart. Crap, malfunction. So ultimately the universe isn't orchestrating all these synchronistic events. There has to be something transcendent to creation, and that is God. And so synchronicity is a real phenomenon, I believe. Obviously I can't look up a church father to give me the full traditional understanding of the concept of synchronicity, but clearly I think all of us would agree that these patterned, meaningful, coincidental events, that obviously they are not a coincidence. I'm using that term to imply the sort of randomness within their causality, even though obviously they're not random. This is all part of God's will in the long run. So God communicates to us in such a multiplicity of ways that synchronicity is one of those ways. And synchronicity is the way in which so many of us have been led by God back to God himself, right? And it's not just New Agey. Again, it's not just secular either. So within the secular context, synchronicity was considered to be sort of like an acausal relationship between meaningfully related events or things. This is how sort of Jung identified it. And so, like, during his career, Jung furnished several different definitions of the term, defining synchronicity as a, quote, a causal connecting togetherness principle, unquote, or, quote, meaningful coincidence, unquote, or acausal parallelism, unquote, or as a, quote, meaningful coincidence of two or more events where something other than the probability of chance is involved, unquote. We see, again, a very secular, sort of scientific, rationalistic approach to this phenomenon, which is then couched within his sort of mystical, Gnostic understanding of the collective unconscious and all this different stuff. I digress. But Jung's belief was that, just as events may be connected causally, they may also be connected by meaning. Events connected by meaning need not have an explanation in terms of causality, which does not generally contradict universal causation, but in specific cases can lead to prematurely giving up causal explanation. So, obviously, within a Christian framework, the idea that events can be connected through meaning, not a big idea, not groundbreaking. But if you're in a scientific, secular, rationalistic worldview, where as if you're familiar with Jay's apologetics, if you're more familiar with what we would call classical foundationalism in regards to epistemology and understandings of truth and the correspondential understanding of truth that is related to that epistemology, that framework, that Aristotelian classical foundationalism, then everything does need a cause. Everything is in a causal sequence, and that wouldn't make any sense that desperate events could be connected by meaning. But if your worldview includes a transcendent God, then obviously it's no problem whatsoever or big deal for meaningful events to be connected acausally, obviously. So that's what's so interesting, is that within our worldview, we can actually explain the phenomenon. Within the worldview of people who profess Jungian psychology or any other type of New Agey or spiritual non-religious worldview, they actually can't account for a phenomenon which they make really the basis of their communication with the universe, which again can't account for its own existence. So, sorry about that. I hope you guys followed what I'm saying there. Yeah, so our journey back to God is filled with synchronistic events, very personal. Only God can understand it. He communicates to us in so many different ways, and this allows us to learn from our experience, rediscover the meaning and depth of Christianity, and reconnect with our own ancestors, reconnect with tradition. And so all those things then lead to the recognition that God was guiding you the entire time. You were always making your own choices, of course, but God was guiding you. He was also there. And so there's a transcendent reality to you. And this gets back to the fact that you are chosen. You aren't limited to the context of your physical body. Yes, you have that. But there's a transcendent element, a dimension, a reality to you. That dimension to you can only then be recognized by the transcendent reality of God himself. again, being made in the image. The world cannot fully recognize the transcendent reality of who you are. God can. That is extremely personal. That's more personal. It's not just that God knows who you are and everything that you do on this planet. God knows who you really are. God knows your transcendent self. What could be more personal than that? And so we can see this even within Orthodox. We say things like memory eternal when somebody passes, right? Memory eternal. We want God to remember our name. Our name is extremely personal. So you matter. You matter. The New Age, the spiritual not religious, the perennialism, the psychedelics, the magic, what it takes is the fact that God believes you matter so much. God believes you matter so much that he does all this stuff for you. You know, we're talking about the whole context of Christian theology. That you are really splendid. You are really important. But that gets flipped within the New Age, the magical, the psychedelic context where you now are God. The meaning, the importance of who you are is in relationship to your humility to God. But that importance of who you are in relationship to the humility gets inverted within the humility of the New Age and the humility of the spiritual non-religious. That really, you know, all you have to do is dissolve your ego, and then you realize you're God. You see, then you realize the whole thing. So if that that whole process, when we think about it, erodes your personhood, right? The whole process of the valorization of the individual within the sort of satanic, magical, pagan, New Age worldview is that you are God, and really that you aren't the person who you think you are. Whereas in the Christian context, you are the person who you think you are, but you're not acting in who you could be. You could be way up here in terms of who you are, and you're down here. You need to do more, but you matter in the context of who you are at this point right now, your body and everything. You matter. But when you claim to be God, now you really annihilate the personhood of who you actually are. So I think that's really interesting. Again, we see the same thing over and over and over. And so God wants you to exist right now. If you are alive, if you're an adult right now, God wants you to be alive during all this. We can definitely recognize, one, I advise don't watch too much news. We can recognize that we live in chaos. We live in evil times. Not that evil wasn't ever present throughout history. Of course it was. And of course, many of the same things are happening. The abortion and the child sacrifice to the pagan idols, same thing is going on, has always been the historical problem of this planet. But God wants you to live right now because you have a purpose. And you need to figure that out one way or another by submitting it to him. So this then leads to the chosenness of 2021. What does chosenness mean? This is why I said you are chosen, because it connects to a whole host of different things. Chosenness is actually a theological term related to Israel and how Jews believe themselves to be the chosen. And so in Judaism, quote, chosenness, this theological term chosenness, is the belief that Jews, via descent from ancient Israelites, are the chosen people, chosen to be in a covenant with God. The idea of the Israelites being chosen by God is found most directly in the book of Deuteronomy as the verb bahar, and is alluded to elsewhere in the Hebrew Bible, using other terms such as holy people. Much is written about these topics in rabbinic literature. The three largest Jewish denominations, Orthodox Judaism, Conservative Judaism, Reform Judaism, maintain the belief that Jews have been chosen by God for a purpose. Tikkun Olam. Sometimes this choice is seen as changing the Jewish people with a specific mission to be a light unto the nations and to exemplify the covenant with God as described in the Torah. Now, within a Christian context, who is chosen? Well, just within that definition of the Jewish chosenness, it has to do with the Jewish people who are in covenant with God. And now, obviously, the Logos is God, and the Logos incarnated as Jesus. And so, who are the people that are still in communion and holding the covenant with that God? That would be Christians. So, within Orthodox theology, we are Israel. We are the true Israel. We are the ones upholding the most recent covenant. We are the holy ones. We are then the chosen ones. In a direct theological context, chosenness is a theological term related to the chosenness of Jews, but obviously that expended itself in the life of Christ, who annihilated the distinction between Jew and Gentile. So Jew and Gentile is annihilated, doesn't exist in light of Christ. So who then, that's why the chosen people after Christ can be both Jew and Gentile. It is actually Christendom. It is actually the true believers. It's the upholders of the second covenant, of the more recent one with Christ. So we are the true Israel. We uphold the covenant. We are the chosen. And because of this, we are the resistance to this world. Who is going to be the resistance to this world? We know what's coming. This is all leading to the chosenness of 2021. We know what is at work right now in the world. We know that the globalists are making their move. Who's going to stand up in resistance? Ultimately, we can divvy this whole thing up in a multitude of ways. People see it politically and nationally and all. None of that matters. It's ultimately a spiritual war. It's ultimately spiritual. It's ultimately non-physical. And so who is going to be the resistance? You and I are. Again, because we have chosen and we have been chosen. We chose this path, or we wouldn't have been looking for truth and the crumbs that it left, the crumb trail it left that brought us back to Christ. The reason we got back is because we were honestly pursuing what is true no matter where that led us, and often it led us to a place that we never thought we were going to get back to in the first place. And so we chose it chose us, but we are the resistance against what's coming in the future. If we don't do it, who will? Who is going to implement God's will on this planet, on this in this world? It is us. And then we are the ones to build. Because clearly what's being happened, and this isn't rocket science, is that COVID is being used to absolutely obliterate the previous economic and global structure. The goal is to make China the world leader. We already saw that. I don't know if you guys saw some of the economic stuff that came out, but China was the only country in the world that actually expanded and had a positive net return after COVID. Every other nation in the world has had a dramatic decrease. Wow, would have never guessed that. So Christ was a carpenter. Christ was a builder. Christ built his church. Christ is our icon. And we are then to build in the coming time. We are to be the carpenters. So 2021, again, things are afoot, if you will. We are the resistance. We are the ones to start building our families, building our bodies, building networks, building larger networks. Right now we're building a network. Right now the people in the live chat, that is a community. We are building. We're slowly building on top of that. So this is our chosenness. Our chosenness is to be righteous, is to be the chosen people of God, of the most recent covenant. We are chosen to do his will and therefore be the resistance to this world. And therefore, to be the resistance, we are also chosen to build. We have to build. I think I haven't heard any Christian or Orthodox clergy speak to this, but one of the things that I was thinking about is it's almost more Christian to build in opposition to your enemy than to destroy your enemy, right? So instead of putting too much attention on destroying what we're up against, I think it's more Christian and it's more beneficial to refocus that energy to building things for us for the future. Building what is good for the future, not destroying what is bad in the immediate moment. If it's bad in the immediate moment, referring back to Psalm 36 that we read at the beginning, God will destroy it. Nothing that is evil, nothing that is sinister lasts over time. We don't have to destroy it. God will destroy it. What we need to do is build. We build. We don't destroy. Because anything that needs to be destroyed is already in opposition to God himself. And he will take care of that. So this leads to the task at hand in 2020. What is it that we all keep seeing? That I keep saying, well, we all know what it is. We see it out there. What is it? Well, we see the agenda. The first part of the agenda is obviously globalism, which is a political and economic structure. So we see the Great Reset is a great political and economic reset. That's what the Great Reset is. Because that is the fundamental, that's the legs of globalism. Globalism walks on the legs of economics and politics. That is what the Great Reset is. We see that is the case. We see the digital currency. We see, this, again, this is part of the Agenda 21. This is part of the whole agenda, right? Oh, we have a coin currency all of a sudden as soon as COVID hits. Well, we don't have a coin currency. What we have is part of the Great Reset is also a transition because of its economic leg. It is a transition to digital currency. It is a transition to full technocratic control by a centralized force. And so with that digital currency, it sure makes it a lot easier to find people, to control what people say on social media because the government has direct access to your bank account. We see mandatory vaccines. We see, people in America are already advocating for mandatory vaccination. Mind you, we don't even have to get into the experimentation of mRNA technology in regards to creating the immunological response in the body. A lot of things going on that obviously have potential to go south. We see the mandatory vaccinations, and even Pfizer came out and said that, well, it's a good potentiality that 10% of the women who actually get this vaccine are going to become infertile for life. For life. And of course, we're already up against something that's by definition evil, and therefore, if it's by definition evil, it moves one towards death. And that's exactly what this is doing. More people, in my opinion, are going to be, or they're going to be killed. They're going to, and whether it's immediately afterwards or there's ripple effects that lingers and eventually they're knocked off afterwards. But I think the solution is worse than the problem, right? So the problem reaction solution that so many of these globalists create, this is their model for events. So we see COVID as the global crisis that they created. And then we see their solution as a vaccine for coronavirus, which obviously anybody who's familiar with coronavirus strands, that they're noted for how frequently they mutate. That's why we've never created viruses for them, because it would be dumb, because you're creating a virus for something that's continually mutating. Unless the whole point is just to make money and perpetuate fear and actually insert and experiment on people and insert different things within these vaccines into their bodies. And that's really what it's all about. So it's just crazy. It's crazy. That's why I'm saying you and I, we see the agenda. We recognize what's going on. The digital passports, multiple airlines, especially in Europe, already said you're not going to be able to travel internationally between countries without a digital passport showing all your up-to-date vaccinations. So we see, again, full and total control of you and your life. It's coming. That is the digital passport. We see the anti-meat. Look up Primal Edge Health. Look up Dr. Sean Baker. Look up Bobby's Perspective. All talking about the anti-meat agenda. The anti-meat agenda. Guys, the anti-meat agenda is synonymous with the anti-male agenda, okay? And so all this impossible meat, all these vegan burgers, all this crap, I love what Tristan says, it's kibble. It really is kibble. It's disgusting, commercialized, like concoctions in a laboratory. This stuff is disgusting. There's nothing natural about it. And that's what's so funny. Again, how evil is so pernicious that you can't help but almost laugh. That the people who are the tree huggers, who love nature, who love animals so much that they're going to become a vegan. They love nature so much that they eat totally synthetic crap that's terrible for you. Right? They love the natural so much that they themselves consume the synthetic. And you may say, "Oh, well, that's a false dialect." Oh, well, whatever, but it's definitely not real meat. And from that, who knows the long-term consequences of eating all this impossible garbage, absolute garbage. And so, as we've had with Dr. Mo come on, eating more meat for men, it's so important for natural testosterone production. So if you move a society towards veganism in the name of global climate change, you're going to drastically lower global T levels, which is the point, right? Because masculine men are the only thing that's going to fight back against this. Without masculine men, nobody's going to fight back against what we're talking about. So that's why they want more feminized men, more effeminate, emasculated, degenerate, addicted men, because they're the ones who won't fight back. They're the weakest. Some part to their own doing, sometimes not to their own doing, but obviously they're the weakest. It's men who aren't addicted to the world. It's men who worship God, and usually men who have families, who are the ones that will put it all on the line because they have the meaning of the wife and the kids and the family and God. They have the sources of real meaning on their side. They don't have the BLM and the false forms of social justice and all this different stuff as their motivators, as their sources of meaning, which again, as we showed, is all ultimately meaningless because it's all relativistic. And so there is no meaning there. It's just eating your faux synthetic crap. Just like there's no real meat there. There's no real substance there. Same thing with the progressive worldview. Same thing with their consumption of faux forms of meaning, because again, they lack God, and ultimately, usually they lack a true family structure. So we see the anti-meat agenda. We see the sterile sex, right? We've talked about how evil ultimately leads towards death. And another way to describe death is anti-life. And so even though sterile sex doesn't necessarily equate to death, we see the promotion of sterile sex. And the reason why I framed it that way is that it includes sodomy, it includes transgenderism, it includes birth control, it includes all the different sort of sexual forms of negating reproductive processes. That is all what I'm calling sterile sex. And if it's sterile, therefore it's anti-life. And if life is an uncreated energy of God, to have sterile sex, not that you have to have a child every time you have sex, clearly, but isn't that not a sort of rejection of God himself at some level, that the sterile sex is totally promoted by the globalist agenda, the same agenda behind the COVID, because why? They want less people on the planet. They want less people on the planet, but who's in control of how many people are on the planet? The actual God of the universe is, because he is the source of life. So if God wanted 8 billion people to be on this planet, 8 billion people are going to be on this planet, and that is exactly the case. But because these people are ultimately evil, and they ultimately worship the devil, they themselves as men are going to dictate who lives and who dies. And they want to lower global population. They want to be God. And obviously that is not a long-term solution. They are ultimately going to destroy themselves, right? So the sterile sex, whether it's the homosexuality, the feminization of men, all this different stuff, totally promoted by the same people. There's the same anti-life agenda. How about global climate change? Again, all this stuff is going to come at us, guys, in 2021 with so much more ferocity, right? People are dying. Like, I don't know if you guys saw about Governor Kemp, the backstabbing Republican governor of Georgia, selling out the state for the Dominion voting machines. Are you guys aware that his daughter, after he was open, Trump was basically lambasting him on social media for a while. This was right after the election. Are you guys aware that his daughter after Governor Kemp said, yes, I will do the signature verification or the signature audit, his girlfriend's soon-to-be fiance, or his daughter's soon-to-be fiance, I'm sorry, died in a mysterious car wreck. Now, am I saying that there's potentially nefarious workers at hand behind this? Yeah, I actually am. That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, I think that it's really conspicuous that that happened at that time. And my point is that these people have so much on the line. The globalists, the billionaires, the politicians, all the people involved in this scam, they can't turn back from it. They can't turn back. That's why betting on a physical altercation, a civil war, if you will, is probably a really, really, really strong bet, because you think that the people who are driving this ship of evil are just going to say, oh, Donald Trump won in 2020. I guess we're going to have to stop. This whole process of all these globalist books spanning all the way back to the 19th century, I guess we're just going to have to stop. No, not going to happen. They're not going to slow down. This is their move, guys. They've been waiting 100 years for this moment, and it's here, and they're taking advantage of it. We have to realize of how much transition's about to take place in 2021. You think the masks are going away? Oh my gosh. If you think the masks are going to go away in 2021, you're either a boomer who still believes in all this institute. This is what I can't get, is that so many boomers see all this stuff, right? They literally fell for 14 days to stop the curve. That was 14 days in March, guys. A virus that has 0.03 mortality rate. We are now at the end of December. We're getting ready to enter 2021. There's a new study that just came out and said out of 100 million people, asymptomatic transmission didn't exist of COVID-19. Asymptomatic transmission is the only reason why people are wearing masks out in public. All the studies are showing that that's not even how the virus spreads. What is going on? And it shows you that the boomers, so many people haven't got to the point where you and I have, where we have no faith in institutions. Doesn't seem like a wild thing for me to say to you guys, right? The CIA, the FBI, the White House, the political system, every Fortune 500 company, it's all inverted. It's all against us. We already know that. The only ally we have is each other and God. We know that. For some reason, the boomers haven't got that message, generally speaking. I see Janie Sophia says no boomer bashing. And I normally am not a boomer basher. I really am not a boomer basher, but it's so frustrating that people can see the businesses. They're not letting them open. They can see the mortality rate so low. They can see the nonsense. They can see the irrationality of how we're interacting with restaurants, right? You wear the mask in, then you sit down, and you take it off because the virus doesn't do anything as long as you're sitting. And they keep going along with it. Stop. How can you continue to criticize the system when you're wearing your surgical mask? You say, well, everybody's forcing me to do it. I mean, it's stop. The only way we stop all this stuff is to not stop being complicit. Stop doing what they're asking us to do. And unfortunately, it seems like, the boomers just have a relationship, an affiliation to the institutions that we don't. Same thing with the news, right? And I think that's a big thing. It's just boomers' relationships to the institutions are so different from millennials and Gen Z, who sees no allyship with any institution, right? YouTube against me. Name a social media company. I mean, other than the new ones that have kind of emerged more recently, but the social media, the government, every major corporation, we're enemy number one. So, yeah. Yeah. So it's just crazy. But thankful we are not as faithful into the institutions as our boomer friends, parents, and relatives. So, Global climate change, right? It's going to be coming even harder. We're going to see more Greta in 2021, I'm sure. And think about this was my favorite one was how many surgical masks are going to be found in the ocean this year. And thank God we banned those dumb plastic straws that were getting stuck up tortoises' nose in their nostrils, right? And now they can just wear a mask and they won't catch COVID as long as they social distance from other turtles, of course. But global climate change, it's phony. It's just another way to reorganize societies. More of it's coming. Anti-masculinity, the feminization of society. You've heard me rant forever about those things. I really don't need to say much more about it. And then, of course, technocracy. I hope Section 230 is going to be in this new stimulus package. I saw today, I got an update from Newsmax that said McConnell reintroduced a new bill on the Senate floor today that included $2,000 stimulus checks and Section 230. I'm way more excited about Section 230 than a $2,000 little carrot that they dangle in front of us so they can put all this back in stuff that we have no idea, not just the foreign aid, right? Everybody's up in arms about the foreign aid. What about like altering the how the president can maneuver soldiers, right? Basically trying to take that ability away from them so the military industrial complex can have full control over American military and wars. How is that in the bill? How does that have anything to do with COVID-19? It doesn't, obviously. So hopefully the Section 230 gets going, because 2021, if we think censorship is bad now, when we get a presidency that is going to be directly in opposition to us, like, think about it. We are going to have, if you are a traditional Christian, right now we can meme and you're a Trump supporter and all this stuff. And we already we exist in a very hostile society where all of institutions are against us other than this guy called Donald Trump, who's in the presidency, and then all his supporters. Now he's going to be out of the presidency. And we're going to be totally in opposition, actively oppositional forces in the government, in corporations, the whole society is going to be in opposition to us. So, you think censorship is bad now? Wait till 2021. Like, it's only going to get worse unless we start moving more and more people to these alternative social medias, which I'm for. I'm for it. We got to do something against all this censorship, the spreading of messages, the spreading of community, all this different stuff. We have to figure out a way from it. I know that Rumble's coming up, Parler, Gab. I'm going to be spending, one of the things that in 2021, I'm going to be spending so much more of my energy on alternative social media sites, even though I've told you how many times I hate posting on social media all the time because you have to do it to get the feedback loop. I hate doing that, but we absolutely have to start embracing more of these alternative social media platforms moving forward. The technocracy, the globalism, the censorship, it's only going to get worse. So the questions then we need to ask ourselves, everybody watching this stream, is what is going to be your role to play in 2021? Your role within God's army, your role within the larger phenomenon of our resistance, of what's going on, right? That we all have different skills. And we've talked about this in regards to, I did a previous stream on being a warrior and how essentially we can look at ourselves in a new context as spiritual warriors. And we talked about putting on the armor of God, Romans, all that different stuff. But we need to start thinking just really practically. It doesn't have to be this grand vision of retaking Constantinople, right? Like, what can you do? Are you with somebody, like in a serious relationship? Do you have children? Are you a single guy? Like, what can you do to be an oppositional force, to be a resistance to what's coming? How can 2021 be the year that you're building? One of the things that I wrote down is 2020 is the year of clarity and recognition. Has to be, right? We recognize the global agenda that I just highlighted. We recognize who's on our side, who isn't. But 2021 has to be the year of movement. We can't have another year of just sitting back and, well, we recognize that, we see that. And can you believe it? Can you believe Fox News? Can you believe they censored that guy on social media? Yeah, I can pretty much believe it. So, what's your role to play? How does it relate to the skills that you've been given? How does it relate to the desires you have in your heart? How does it relate to maybe the messages or even the synchronistic events that may be transpiring in your life by submitting your life and your purpose to God? How are these things unfolding? What's God's purpose for you? If you don't think you know your purpose yet, 2021 has to be the year that you figure it out. I want to say that, well, just keep doing what you're doing. Guys, we don't have a whole lot of time. We do. Ultimately, God's in control, right? So there's this give and take. It's like we don't have a lot of time. We have to take what we know and start putting it into action. I don't know if you guys saw, but Beartaria Times, they have their own app now. I do not have it yet. Multiple people have reached out, asked if I should get on. But dude, that's great. You may disagree with Owen or the Bears or whatever, guys, but they're doing exactly what we have to do. They're building, right? What they would call they're crushing. We have to do the same thing. We all have to do the same thing. All of us have to see 2021 as the year of movement, the year of building, the year of putting everything into action. Not that we're not going to maybe change or alter course some. Of course we will. But there has to be real engagement and real movement in our lives. We have to. Again, like I said, we are the resistance. So, are you willing to work then? That's a question you have to ask yourselves. Are you willing to work? Are you willing to work? I think for most of us, we'd say yes. Within our Christian theology, right? We find freedom within labor. By laboring, by working, by putting our skills to the test, by, striving for our goals, we create meaning and we also create freedom. That freedom to know that through our work, we can't be held down, right? If you don't have the confidence that you can work your way out of wherever circumstance or position you find yourself in, then you definitely don't feel free. You definitely don't feel free then if you also aren't submitting that to God, because ultimate freedom comes in a submission to God, which is another sort of dialectical collapse we talk about with our theology multiple times. But work, we have to want to work. And so that's why it's so important. If the rest of your life, if you're a man and you're a Christian, the rest of your life is literally called to work. To work. So make sure you figure out what your skill is. Make sure you figure out what you like to do. And also realize that you're going to have to do things you don't like to do, and you're going to work your ass off. You're going to work your ass off. You need to have that mentality. I see too many people I know, just friends from my life, that they are maybe given, God blessed them with skills, whether they're artistic, musical, whatever it be, comical. God clearly blessed them with skills. They always talk about what they're about to do. Years go by, every time you see them, it's the same conversation. They're always talking to you about what they're about to do. You don't want to be that person. You want to be the person who, whatever they say they do, they're always in movement. They're moving towards their goals. They're not stagnant. They're not talking about it. That you have to want to work. So you're going to find your skill, find what you like, and then work your ass off. Work for it. And when you do that, after time, whether it's building your body, whether it's reading, whether it's writing, whatever it is, sculpting, it's like the work over X period of time, it molds you into a better person. And if you're submitting all this to God, it's going to mold you into a better Christian. It's going to mold you into a better follower. It's going to mold you into being who you are intended to be, right? If you're constantly asking God to guide you on your providential purpose, that you want your life, you want your skill set to be used as a tool to glorify Him and lead people back to Him, that's exciting. And you want your work to be that. So figure out what you're good at, what you've been blessed with, what do you like, and then combine that with absolute hard work. Hard work. When will the people have enough? This is the other question that I have for 2021, because I don't see anything slowing down personally. So you can, clip this. We will see who is right in the future. I don't see the masks, the vaccines, the globalist agenda that's at hand disguised as a global pandemic. It's not going to slow down. It's only going to intensify. And so when will people eventually have enough? They're going to have enough. They're going to have enough. Violence is going to come. If Biden is president, I expect violence to really start occurring in the year of 2021. Not that there isn't going to be real violence if Trump's also president. It's just going to be the same nonsensical rioters. It's going to be the same culprits, if you will, causing more chaos in society. But it's going to get organized, if you know what I mean. The encounters are going to be more organized moving forward, and I think that is what 2021 may have in store if people have had enough. I don't know if you've seen some of the stuff that just the videos I'm saying all this stuff just as a person who stays on social media, and I'm trying to gauge the pulse of the country. What's the pulse of America right now? And I feel if you touch the pulse, what you see is people submitting to irrationality, and they're becoming more and more frustrated with it because the irrationality, the illogical nature of all this stuff is playing itself out in various people's lives, whether it's their work or their children or their school or whatever it is, and they're becoming more and more frustrated. But the biggest thing I think is the restaurant shutdown. And by shutting down the restaurant industry, I think this is a big one, that people know each other. So if your neighbor owns a restaurant, and you know that they are on desperate times because you're in the state of New York and they're not going to let them open, like, you feel that is going to grow. I just recently saw a video out of I think it was California or something, of a man. He had like a big GMC truck, and he went and parked behind the health inspector because he's going around giving notices to all these different restaurants. Meanwhile, the guy who owns the restaurant is literally having to tell the people who work for him that they can't open, that they're not going to be able to make money to feed their children. Meanwhile, the health inspector is free to get a check and work, and while he's working, what he's doing is hurting all the people in his community. And this is exactly what the communist structure does, right? When you had the children selling out the parents, if they were sympathizers to anti-communist stuff like that. It's here. It's in America. We are face to face with the Bolshevik Revolution. Like whatever I feel like we have more in common at this point probably with the Russians, in opposition to the Bolshevik Revolution, than probably the Americans in the 1950s. I need to think a little bit more about that, but I think that might be accurate. We have more in common with the Russians fighting the Bolshevik Revolution in the early 20th century than we do with Americans in America in the 1950s. I may be wrong, but I think I'm onto something there. But when will the people have enough? And we have to be planning for this because we see where all this stuff is going. We see the goal is to take first world nations to a third world nation or second world nation status, and make basically the whole world a second world nation. Maybe China will be a first world nation or whatnot, a few of the countries, but it's going to be total hell. It's going to be a technocratic nightmare is coming. So when will people have enough? And is it going to be a 2021? Are we going to see real violence? I think we are. Doesn't mean that you and your family are. Doesn't mean that you need to be joining the local militia. But 2021 should be, again, like I said, 2020 is clarity. 2021 is movement. 2021, if you're not reacting to what you have learned in 2020, then you deserve everything that's going to come at you. You deserve it. Now, if you didn't expect a lot, didn't expect what 2020 was going to offer, which most of us didn't, and then you learned, your perception has changed about the world, and now you want to redirect your life in a different direction, that's somebody who's learning. I think, God's going to be very well pleased with you that you're witnessing what's going on and you're acting accordingly. We all need to be doing that. And so 2021, we need to submit our life that year to the Lord. Submit it to God. Make a verbal submission. Pray on your knees at night and just between you and God, but make it verbal. Make it count. Say it. You're in a communication with God that you want to submit your life to Him in 2021. You want whatever your skill is, whatever your purpose is, whatever His providence is for you, you want it to be fulfilled. You want to move in the right direction. I want to find who I'm going to marry, and I want to build my business. Is that what God wants for me? I don't know. But I'm also submitting the year to God. So whatever God wants, I submit it to Him. But I also have the goals that then I'm trying to set for myself. And hopefully those are also acquiesced to by God, as was our reading in Psalm, right? Be righteous, do the will of God, and then in sincerity ask for the things that you desire, and if it's His will, they will be given to you. So do the same thing for this coming year, guys. Submit it to God, whatever it is. Maybe you're also looking for a spouse. Maybe you want to grow, make more money. Maybe you're trying to have a child right now. Maybe you're trying to move. Maybe you're also trying to build a business. Whatever you're trying to do, submit it to God in the year of 2021. We have an opportunity at a new beginning. And I talked about all the death around us. I talked about how my dog's death, putting Sarge down on the 11th of December, was really a mark for a new transition point in myself. And I wholeheartedly have taken this to be the case, to the extent that, like, when I go through these changes where I make it like a mental transition, So I got a new phone. Nothing is going on to that phone. No memory. I'm not transferring any of my photos, all my apps, all my contacts. None of that is getting transferred. I have a brand new phone, iPhone 12, to film my videos, for my fitness videos, this, all this stuff. But, what was I getting at? Making a new start. That for me, I needed a new start. That, all the photos from my past, everything in my 20s, on that old phone, it's just been, every time I've got a new phone since I was 19, it's just a transfer of material, then a transfer. So then your phone is just full of this stuff over the years. And when Sarge died, who was with me through all that stuff, it's like, you know what? I'm severing that chapter of my life. That chapter is totally over. We're now moving into a new chapter. The goals are different. How I operate are different. What I'm pursuing is different. So if that's the case, then we need a new start. And so for me, one way to do that, I needed to do something physical. I took money I saved up. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go buy a new phone. So I think doing that, maybe changing some of your wardrobe or dressing different, these are good ways to create a new beginning, right? You need a visual marker. If you're going to make a transition point, if 2021 is going to be a new chapter in your life, you have to do something to visibly transition that. Maybe you just get a new haircut that you don't usually get, and maybe you don't plan on keeping it in 2021, but you have to do something visual. You have to have a visual marker So it's physical. The transition isn't just a cerebral thing. If your transition is only something you've thought about, you're not going to transition. You're going to the next morning when you wake up, you're going to fall right back into the same pattern. You have to do something physical to resubstantiate that transition. So it is mental, but then there's also a transition physically, which then revalidates the mental, and so then there's a feedback loop there. So for me, 2021 is a new chapter. 2020 was the end of 19, and the year 2020, it was the first full year of Church of the Eternal Logos. Lot of clarity, a lot of recognition. 2021 will be the second year. 2021 will be the first full year. Well, no, it won't be the first full year, but in my mind, it's like a new me pursuing new goals, pursuing, looking for family, looking to have children in the next decade. Because for me, the new me is a 10-year focus. So the new chapter is thinking not about all the things that I've done from 19 to 30, but from 31 to 40. That's what I'm focused on. What am I going to do from 31 to 40? How am I going to make money? How am I going to build my family? How am I going to build my business? How am I going to do all that stuff? That's what I'm interested in. So maybe that's helpful for me articulating my process to you guys, but submit the coming year to the Lord. Submit it to God. Marco Ramos said he's going to start benching and stop bitching in 2021. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. That's funny. But anyways, that concludes today's stream. Let's see, an hour and 35 minutes. So nothing too crazy. I've done a lot more, but we got some super chats here. So I'm going to read some of these super chats. I'm looking over in the, Nick just stopped in. What's up, Nick? He's in the chat. Okay, so first super chat was from Matthew Curry. He threw in $5. This was before the stream even started, and so I made sure to shout out Matt before I started and tell him Happy New Year and God bless. That's what he wrote. He said he threw in $5 and said Happy New Year and God bless. Happy New Year to you, Matthew. Thank you for the $5, brother. God bless you and yours. And I wish you and your family nothing but success in 2021. Thank you very much, brother. Mama Llama. Oh, gosh. Mama Llama threw in $4.99. Glory to God. Amen to that. Mama Llama and I, we go way back. Thank you so much, Anna, for the $4.99. I appreciate it. God bless you and your family. Hope you and the kids and everybody are doing great. Thank you, guys, for the support. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, Anna, for the $4.99. Glory to God. Brandon throws in $5. He says, you are killing it with the streams lately. I cannot tell you how much it means that others see things the way I do. God bless. Well, Brandon, thank you so much, brother. I'm glad that you like the streams lately. And that's part of, that was even part of today's message, right? Is that you being chosen is an individual personal process, but at the same time, you are chosen among all these other people who are chosen. We are also chosen. And so you're not alone. The way that you think, even though society wants to make you feel ostracized and a weirdo, you aren't alone. You are not alone. And I'm so thankful that you enjoy the streams, that you've been watching, and that you've been getting something out of them. I'm humbled that I can do something that I love to do, which is research and talk, and that can bring clarity and connect dots for other people. I love that. So thank you so much, Brandon, for the $5. I greatly appreciate it. Papa Nooch threw us in $5. I think you're going to say Papa Nooch. Papa Nooch throws in $5 and says, do you have any videos refuting the idea of Brahma? We're all God. God is everything in the universe ideas. I don't have one specifically on the concept of Brahma. And that can get a little bit more nuanced in that, because Brahma is also an actual deity within the Hindu pantheon. So if you are familiar with what's called the Trimurti, which is the Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the preserver, and Shiva, the destroyer, That's what's called the Trimurti. Pagans, perennialists, they try to say, oh, this is like the Trinity. No, it's not anything like the Christian Trinity. But we see there that Brahma isn't just a concept that we're all God. Brahma is also an actual God who's believed to be the creator of the universe. But what you're talking about also exists, that we are ultimately all gods. Made by Jim Bob actually reached out to me, and he wanted me to do a video deconstructing the Bhagavad Gita. Jeez, I couldn't freaking speak. Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes I have a problem saying that, but the Bhagavad Gita. Let's see. I have it right over here somewhere. That's not it. I have it somewhere around here, but here it is, right here. The Bhagavad Gita. This is a famous epic, a famous book within Hinduism that talks about Krishna and Arjuna. And Arjuna is this Hindu warrior, comes from a very priestly, wealthy family, and he is going to battle. And when he goes to battle, his chariot is accompanied by Krishna. And Krishna answers these questions, these objections that arise from Arjuna as he goes to war. One, that he's fighting his friends, that he's fighting his family, he's fighting people that he knows. And Hindu theology then is explored and articulated through this narrative that, well, your dharma is to be a warrior. So your purpose, dharma is kind of another term for purpose. The book highlights that Arjuna's dharma is to be a warrior, that his purpose is to kill people, and that his purpose is ultimately to even kill his own family and friends. And that due to samsara, the cycle of reincarnation, that ultimately he's not killing his family and friends, even though he is killing his family and friends, that their soul will live on and they will reincarnate in the next life if they lived appropriately. And so a lot of these Hindu ideas are articulated within this tale in the Bhagavad Gita, and made by Jim Bob actually asked me to do a deconstruction on it, of which your question reminds me. Sorry, I go on tangents, and so I just rambled for nonsense. But when you ask me about the idea of Brahma, I do want to do more of a breakdown of Hinduism. I do want to do a deconstruction of the Bhagavad Gita and read some of this to people and see how people react. So I don't, all that to say, Papa Nooch, I don't have a video specifically on that concept of the idea of Brahma. I do have a video on like perennialism that specifically attacks perennialism, that has ideas like we're all God. So Papa Nooch, I do recommend, if you're interested, to check out my video on perennialism. That might help, or New Age inversions of Christianity. That may help as well. But I will have a video in the near future that may tackle something more related to what you asked me. So thank you very much for the $5, brother. I really appreciate that. Really, really do. Daniel E. Oh, geez. Such a good ortho, bro. He threw us in 1999. Dude, thank you, Daniel E., man. You've been throwing in like $9.99, now $19.99, like the last 3 streams, bro. Thank you so much, man. Thank you. I really, really appreciate it. Really, really appreciate it. He says, do something now. If not you, who? If not here, where? If not now, when? Theodore Roosevelt. And I love that quote. And that it really sums up the point. Thank you, Daniel E., for that quote, because that quote should have probably started today's stream. That's what it's about. That's why you're chosen. You are chosen because we have to do something now. If it's not you, then who? You chose to occupy this position that God also called you to occupy. If it's not here, where? If it's not now, when? So great quote. Thank you very much, Daniel E., for that Teddy Roosevelt quote. Thank you so much, brother, for the $19.99. Thank you, brother, for the support. Thank you for liking the streams. Thank you for coming and joining in the live chat and growing the community. Thank you, brother. I really, really appreciate it. I really do. Thank you, Daniel E. Janie Sophia throws in $10 and says, enjoyable stream tonight. Thank you. Well, thank you, Janie. I really appreciate that. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you for the $10. I greatly appreciate it. I greatly appreciate it. Rated Musician throws in $2 and says, "What are your goals for 2021?" My goals for 2021 is to make another. The goal is to make another $1,000 to $2,000 a month. So financial goal is I want to add another $1,000 to $2,000 per month. So ideally, by the end of the year, I'd add another $2,000 per month. That is a financial goal. Continuing with my fitness goals is to, in 2021, I plan on continuing what I'm doing. And maybe in about 5 months, I plan on focusing more on powerlifting and doing more lesser reps, heavier weight type stuff than what I'm doing now. So that's kind of my fitness stuff, and getting in doing more cardio, just doing more different types of workouts in about 5 to 6 months I plan on. So that's kind of a fitness goal. In regards to relationships, my goal in 2021 is to hopefully meet who will be eventually my wife. So again, God willing, submit that to the Lord Almighty. But one goal is to hopefully meet my wife. So that'd be, let's see, I talked about money, fitness, relationships. That's really it. My goal for 2021 is like to work my ass off. I'm not joking. I have school goals, so I want to finish all my exams this next semester, and really I want to get onto the dissertation by next fall. That's my goal. 2021, I just want to focus and bust my ass in school, get my school stuff done, stream 3 days a week, make videos, make workout videos, and just don't slow down, whatever. I do not want to slow down at all. So that's really my 2021 goals. I got to build a business, dude. I have to turn this into a business. I don't have an option. As I told you guys, I threw it all in on this lifestyle. I gave up the whole university thing. So, I got to turn this into a moneymaker. So that is the big one for 2021. But thank you, Rated Musician, for throwing in $2. God bless you and yours, brother. Good ortho, bro. Always contributing. Always got something to say. So thank you very much, Rated Musician. Really appreciate it, brother. Joseph Galagos throws in $10. Said, "Thank you. This is exactly what I needed to hear. God bless." Well, thank you, Joseph. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much for the $10, man. I really, really appreciate that. I'm glad that whatever I had to say was what you were looking for, man. I really, really am. So thank you so much for the support, man. I believe you chimed in and helped out last stream. So thank you, brother. I really appreciate it. Nick Offinger threw in $4.99. Nick's a good friend now. He just said, "Just picked up the Ancient Faith Psalter on Audible. Highly recommended." Oh, nice. Yeah, I have to check that out. I'm not familiar with the Ancient Faith Psalter, but I'm down. I'm always interested in audiobooks. I could get down on it. So Nick, good ortho bro. Again, threw in $4.99. I like to consider him a friend. And he said, "Just picked up the Ancient Faith Psalter on Audible. Highly recommended." Oh, geez, we got another super chat. Nathaniel. Oh, man. Nathaniel. He's a Nathaniel Hill. He's also a good friend. And he threw in 2021. No comment. Just 2021. Thank you so much, Nathaniel, dude. Thank you so much, brother. By the way, Nathaniel, I saw your wife posted some photos of the family during Christmas, and you guys looked incredible, man. Your family looked beautiful. Your Christmas looked good. So again, I hope you and your family had a wonderful Merry Christmas, and you guys have a Happy New Year's. Thank you, Nathaniel, dude. Thank you so much for donating, man. We got to catch up. We have so much to talk about. Truth Eli said your donate page is 404ing, bro. What? Hold on. Let me see. No, it's working for me. Here, I'll throw it into the chat. You tell me if it's working or not. that is working for me. And then the register too. I mean, it's also working for me. So guys, check this. Tell me if it's working for you or not. Tell me if that's working for you guys. Oh, we got a couple new super chats. Brandon Dybert throws in $5. Says, "May God grant Codal many." Oh, dude, thank you so much, Brandon. Thank you, brother. Thank you. May God grant you and yours many years as well, man. Thank you for the support, bro. Thank you for the $5. I greatly appreciate it. Really, really do. Matthew Curry said, "Need a map of based ortho churches. Where do I go to worship where I will not be harassed to wear a mask?" Dude, no joke, Matthew. We really do, as like a community, need to establish like how we can identify all the based Orthodox parishes. So it's almost like, wouldn't it be sick if maybe in like a year we do have some type of social media where we can all, like all Orthodox. And so then we can like know like what are the cool parishes to go to. And so like when you go to church on Sunday, geez, you never know like what guy online may show up, if you guys live in the vicinity. So that would be pretty cool. But gosh, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Nathaniel. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Brandon, so much for the $5. Oh, Truth Eli throws in 2021. He said, "Merry Christmas and blessing." Truth Eli, thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. Truth Eli just says, "Merry Christmas." Merry Christmas to you, man. I hope you guys I hope you and your family had a wonderful Christmas. I hope you guys have an amazing New Year, man. Thank you. God bless you and yours. Geez, and Philo Beto throws in 1999. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you. And he says, "Thoughts on Fraser's Golden Bough." Thanks, DPH. Thoughts on Fraser's Golden Bough. Well, the Golden Bough is like a very important book. So for those of you who don't know what Philo is asking, he's asking about James George Fraser's famous book called The Golden Bough. And James George Fraser is often considered one of the earlier scholars in religious studies, looking at sort of theories of religion. And so James George Fraser, one of his very contributive theoretical works is how we actually articulate magic. And so before in previous streams, I've talked about why the Golden Bough, though I did disagree with much of what he has to say, ultimately from a theological point of view, James George Fraser's work is important in the world of academia and the study of religion. And the Golden Bough is really influential in sort of theories of magic and what we would call sympathetic magic, or what he calls contagion magic. And so Fraser, like a lot of the other guys, Bronislaw Malinowski, Durkheim, Tyler, they believed in a evolutionary understanding of religion and the phenomenon of religion. And so for many of these earlier guys, and Fraser understands the same thing within the Golden Bough, that basically there is magic, then there's religion, and then there's science. And they believe this to be the sort of natural evolutionary progression of reason, of the mind of man. And that magic, for Fraser and many of these early scholars, magic is the problem of the primitive man not being able, and I think Bronislaw Malinowski specifically talks about this the most, it's the problem of the primitive man doesn't understand the nature of causality. And so because he doesn't understand the nature of causality, he performs these magical rituals, say for rain, and then at some point maybe it rains. And because he doesn't understand weather patterns and this or that he then associates his rain dance with the phenomenon of rain and lives in basically a haphazard, disoriented world. That was their understanding. That leads then to religion being a more systemized form of magic, and then theology then being a sort of rational process of trying to talk about how these magical works understand or organize themselves into a larger worldview. And hold on, I lost my thread there. We're talking about Fraser, the Golden Bough. And that religion then is a more systematized form. Theology, then, the process of theology is trying to give magic reason, right? But then that ultimately fails because the rational mind then discovers the scientific method or induction or however you want to frame that, materialism, rational positivism, however you want to frame that. And so this was the framework. Much of the late 19th century, early 20th century scholars frame things. James George Fraser and the Golden Bough being no exception to that. So, thoughts on Fraser's Golden Bough? I think it's an important book from an academic perspective. Do I agree with it as like, oh, read Fraser's, he really knows what's going on with religion? No, I would never say that. Because he's a secularist, he's an atheist, he has a utilitarian sort of understanding of the role of religion and all this stuff. But does he also make truth statements? Does he also provide a useful way to understand the phenomenon of magic and how magic works? Yes, he does. So I think if you're interested in the academic study of religion, check out the Golden Bough and check out James George Fraser and his thoughts. But that's as an academic, to learn them, to know them, but not to adopt them, to criticize them. So that's my thoughts, Philo. Sorry, that was a bit of a long and belabored response, but you threw in 1999, so I feel like you deserve something. Again, I got to shout out everybody. Thank you guys so much for all the love and support tonight. Thank you, Philo, Beto. Thank you, Truth Eli, for the 2021. Thank you, Brandon Dybert, for the $5. Nathaniel Hill, God bless you and the family, bro. We got to catch up soon. Thank you for the 2021. Nick Offinger, again, I hope you and the family are doing well. I imagine you're probably in the Bay Area right now, unless you're able to get off work and you're back in Idaho. Thank you, Joseph Gallegos, for the $10. Thank you, Rated Musician, for $2. Thank you, Janie Sophia, for the $10. Thank you, Daniel E., again, for this week's donation of $19.99. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you, Papa Nooch, for $5. And Brandon for $5. Thank you, Mama Llama, for $4.99. And thank you, Matthew Curry, for the $5. Thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate it. Nathaniel throws in 2077. Cyberpunk reference, exactly. Nathaniel, thank you so much, brother, man. Thank you so much for the 2077, man. Thank you for the super chats. Gosh. I do want to see a little bit more of the Cyberpunk 2077. I did see the Orthodox icons in one of the previews or something, but I'm not a big gamer myself, so will I actually play the game? Probably not. But dunk on their weak transhumanist philosophy. I definitely will. Yeah, there should be a whole, yeah. I will try to do a whole breakdown, or I could do, or look into a deconstruction of cyberpunk. That would be really good. But gosh, thank you guys so much, man. Thank you, Nathaniel. Thank you for everybody who's here, everybody who donated, everybody who didn't donate. Like, even if you didn't, you're just here. Thank you guys. Nathaniel Hill with the Epic Bank account. Annie said, y'all can add me on Insta at Annie3 as an E Elizabeth. Build the Ortho Network. Oh, that's great. No, absolutely. Guys, go follow Annie Banani. Great Ortho sister. And her handle is at ANNE 3 LIZABETH. Again, thank you very much, Nathaniel. I really appreciate it. Brandon said, you'll have no problem finding the wife looking so fly like that. More benching, less benching is a good goal for me too. It's good for all of us, Brandon. I mean, it's good for all of us. But I do appreciate the compliments on the attire. This is a new tie. I actually just got this yesterday at the store. And so I got a new pocket square that goes along with my new tie. I liked it. So I appreciate the recognition. I appreciate the compliment, Brandon. Thank you very much. Always trying to stay sharp, as you know. C. Turner said, "You're just helping us along the journey. By grace, we become who God is by nature." Amen, Turner. Why are psychedelic pictures above your icons? What is, if you can tell me what is wrong with my pictures in the framework of your question, I would certainly find that enlightening. Your question already insinuates that somehow there's something wrong with the artwork next to my icons. So I disagree with the framework of your question, but please let me know why you think there's a problem there. Andy Banani said, and y'all can keep me in check too. Haha, I gotta get my butt in gear this coming year. Thanks, Patrick. Oh no, Annie, absolutely, for sure. Robin said, I enjoyed your stream so much. Thank you for the insights and resources. Oh, no problem. Robin, I don't know if you're a man or a woman, but thank you very much. I appreciate it nonetheless. Thomas Henderson says, as Shakespeare says, apparel doth make the man. Oh, thank you, Thomas, for that. I do appreciate it. And Janny Sophia said, try Bible study for a wife. Janny, FYI, I am in my church's Bible study, and I am in my church's theology class. Unfortunately, my church is very, very small, so nobody is attending that I don't already know. But I do appreciate it. I'm just going to live my life and try to be as successful as possible. And hopefully God will lead me to where I need to be with my wife. So Robin said, keep wearing blue, David, and you'll find a wife no time. Thank you, Robin. I really appreciate that. I will definitely keep that in mind then. Yeah, Marco Ramos said, great tip from Janie Sophia to try to find a wife in Bible study. So I definitely agree. If you guys have a bigger parish, like just become more active in your church. Maybe you'll meet somebody. But also, it seems like people are meeting each other online too, with all the networks we're setting up with all the networks that we're setting up between each other on Telegram, on Twitter, all the stuff that it's not impossible that you don't find a wife on actual social media, on ortho social media. I don't know if anybody's gotten married, but I know that just from, I think on Facebook, there's like an Orthodox singles group that I was added to. And inside that group, I think there's been a couple people that have already found relationships, which is pretty good. So that's great. I mean, more Orthodox relationships, right? We need more Orthodox people getting married and having kids and promoting the values. So I think that's a great thing. Really, really exciting. So, oh, Robin said, laugh out loud, I'm a woman. Annie Banani, do you have a Twitter? Oh, okay, cool. Ray the Musician said, just followed you, Annie. Follow back. My handle is the name you see here. And Janie Sophia said, yep, you'll find her. Well, I think I will. I'm just going to try. I figured I need more money anyways, no matter who I meet. If we're going to have a homestead, I need to make some more money. So I might as well just focus on that in the meantime until we actually meet each other. So Annie Banani said, so recap plans for 2021, Ortho Credit Union, Ortho Taria Times app, Rebuild Byzantium, anything else? Yeah, no joke, Annie. I do have a Twitter. I don't use it. Yeah, basically 2021, Ortho Credit Union, Ortho Taria Times app, and Rebuild Byzantium. That's hilarious. Anyways, guys, it looks like that's kind of the end of the questions. Please smash that like if you didn't. If you haven't yet, I should say. I hope everyone had a incredible Christmas. You had a great time in our stream today. If we don't talk, I hope you have a happy New Year's. So I just want to thank you guys. Thank you so much for all the love and support. Thank you. If you are interested, please don't forget that I am uploading exclusive content to my website. So if you are interested in becoming a website member for $5 a month, go to davidpatrickcarey.com/register and create an account. And you will have access to all my workout videos as well as exclusive educational videos that I have on my website. If you're not interested, not a big deal at all. If you'd like to donate $5 a month, I recommend donating to me by getting a membership. And if you happen to have some time, you can check out the videos. But eventually I'm going to get a live stream. And so anybody who's already donated $5, they'll also be able to see the live streams over at the website. So that's what I was saying. Maybe you're not going to watch all my exclusive videos. That's fine. Just do the $5 a month donation. And then when the live stream comes on and half the stream's over on the website, you'll still be able to watch. But that's if you wanted to or you're interested. So, but thank you guys. Thank you so much. Please like, share, and subscribe. Again, I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. God bless you all, you and your families. And we will be back potentially either Thursday or Friday. We will be back with another stream. Thursday or Friday, you can count on it. I haven't totally decided on the topic yet. So if you guys ever get a wild hair and you feel like you need to reach out to me for a great stream topic, feel free to do that. I'm always open to new topics, but I will certainly think of something, I'm sure. So I will see you guys Thursday or Friday. If we don't talk, have a happy new year. God bless you all. And again, as always, until next time, God bless.